Good morning, everyone. This is the third time I've tried this morning, and as with all things technology, it's user error. So I managed to work out how to share my screen. I managed to work out how to do the presentation, and I also managed to work out how to cast over three separate media outlets at the same time. So this is on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter, and it's on our YouTube. But what I couldn't do, I couldn't get the sound to work. And what I found out, it was because I wasn't adding myself to the stream. So yeah, a very good start. Anyway, so I thought I'd do this live this morning. It's a new sort of avenue for us is going live. Um, so you might have seen we always do TikTok videos. We film all our installs from a technology point of view. We post a lot on LinkedIn and Twitter. Don't really do much on YouTube, so this is why we're casting to that as well. But live, I think, gives a different opportunity for engagement. So what you can do, I believe, excuse me, is you can post comments, you can also ask questions on this feed. But what I would say is if you wanting to post something that you wouldn't want to be shown publicly, just be careful, because I can make the comments live. And I can also put up the really funny ones. So yeah, if you're feeling a bit a bit boisterous this morning, then feel free. But what I thought I would do is I just wanted to run through a quick presentation, really, about us, who we are, what we do, what we've been up to, some thought-provoking conversations, and also just so everybody can get a good understanding of what we're doing. So I'll jump straight into it. Let me go and start this. So do this again. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so we're a digital FM business, and I do remember when we first started talking about this. It's nearly 4 years ago now. Lots of people said to us, "What is a digital FM business?" And what we found was, before we started, we looked at the market, and we looked at what we thought would be a good model to deploy. And what we found was that there were two sort of different sides to the equation in regards to FM, but also technology. And what we found was you could go to a traditional IoT business, and these guys would build you fantastic solutions based on your challenge, and no doubt save you a ton of cash. But missing in that equation was the implementation side. So, as everybody knows, when you design something in a lab environment, it all looks great. But when you go to put that into a live operation, things change. You've got people, you've got plant, you've got everything moving about. It's very different, and you need highly competent people to be able to install this stuff. I don't mean just someone coming together and sticking two wires. This is very integrated technology installation, especially when you start to look at the BMS integration piece. So you can't just have anybody turn up to do that. And what we found was some of the IoT companies would struggle, so they'd usually outsource this to maybe an electrical company, even an FM company from an electrical competency point of view. Or maybe very rarely you'd have one or two people in-house that could help, but they could never really go to scale. So that's sort of one side of the equation. Then on the other side, you had FM, and I don't mean soft service FM. I mean the hard services. So we predominantly look after electrical competency. So you fix wire testing and things like that. And what is in vogue at the moment is partnerships. So the poor old FM here, they're constantly asked from their clients about innovation. What can you do for me next? What can you do to help save cost? I've got this ESG thing I need to look at now. You look after my buildings. Help me. What am I doing with carbon? What is even a carbon footprint? What is my carbon footprint? All these sorts of questions come at the FM, and the FM, quite rightly, is going to look at that and go, well, do I want to spend my hard-earned capital designing technology that I'm not too sure about to try to get to market as my own product? Probably not. Very rarely they'll do that. So they'll partner. There's nothing wrong with partnerships. But what we found was, well, what if we sort of sat in the middle? So we could and can do the traditional hard FM services, but also we have a load of developers that can do the IoT side as well. And what if we brought those two together to be a proper digital FM? So not so much a bolt-on, but at our core, we have very competent engineering from an electrical point of view, but we also have the digital IoT piece, and marry those two together, then what could happen? And we call this our tripod. And I've just spoken about the first two. So if you're going to have an engineer come to your site and carry out your compliance, which is required and a legal obligation to make sure everybody's safe, all that good stuff that we know, why then would you then go and find a different company to then come in and maybe put an EMS system in, or look at optimizing your BMS? Maybe you don't want to spend the money on completely changing your BMS. You just want to tweak it. How do you do that? Is it worth putting a mini BMS in? All these sorts of different things come into it. So you're going to have two providers there. So that's why we brought those competencies together. So electrical compliance and IoT. But keeping us honest and making sure it's not pie in the sky conversations is our CX side, so customer experience. And that's what Sharon very much looks after for us as our CXO, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to come up with beautifully designed solutions that, one, cannot be implemented practically from an engineering point of view, but also doesn't engage the client and promises the world and it just doesn't deliver. And that could be on ROIs, that could be on what is practically possible on the ground. So this is why we have CX at the core as well. And these are our three core disciplines. And I'm more than happy to be challenged or corrected, but I don't think I've seen any other sort of big FMs having CXO on their board, but also CX right at the core. Now, it's very naive to think that customer experience is just having a customer service center. That's a very small part of it. There's all sorts of different things that go into CX, and I'm not even going to do it a service here by trying to talk about this. That's something that Sharon owns, and I'm no doubt if you reach out to Sharon Boyd, she'll be able to talk a lot about that in regards to how that works for us, but also how it could work for your business as well. I struggled, and I was wondering if I should share this slide, because what this is doing is it's showing the core challenge that we're trying to solve. But I think it's important to show this because, in essence, we're all trying to solve this challenge, especially within the FM world. I'm not going to go through every single step here, but because you can read this, or you can pause it after the live or take a picture. It's absolutely fine. But we know that from the traditional PPM approach, that is fraught with difficulties and challenges. It can be very frustrating, can be very costly, and it is quite outdated, is that approach. But what I want to make sure is that a solution to this is not putting people out of work. Technology should work seamlessly with the traditional engineering skills, because, as I said before, you've got the one side, which is the implementation piece, but also if you think about those sites where you have engineers that have been on there for 10, 15 years, that knowledge is extremely valuable. And you want to bring that knowledge in to the solution design phase, but also the implementation piece as well. And then also helping them through that CX side sell the new technology to the wider business. So nobody gets scared and thinks that it's going to show them things that they don't want to see. And also, it's not going to put anybody out of work. And, and also, we don't live in Skynet times. Valves go, pumps break, compressors stop working. You're not going to have a load of T1000s turning up and replacing that, not in our lifetime anyway. So we very much do need competent and skilled engineers. This is what the new side of it could look like. So once you know the normal state of an asset, it becomes quite simple to monitor and alert. So you could look at an asset and say, within this environment, within the age of that equipment, within its manufacturer's warranty, however you want to look at it, this is the temperature it should be optimum at. This is the vibrations. This is the power it should consume. This is when it's supposed to be on and off, etc., etc., etc. Once you know all that and you put that information into the equation, then anything outside the norm is an opportunity for action. And this is where the preventative maintenance side comes into it. So you're not hoping something's going to happen or hoping something doesn't happen. You're going to know it's going to happen before it goes bang. And as a result of going in and looking at that piece of equipment when maybe it's vibrating more than it should be, or it's pulling too much power, or the temperature's rising, you can get in and fix that before something major happens and completely brings down the operation. And I'm sure we've all got examples of how that's happened. And it's not that difficult to do. Some of our key capabilities here, and as I said before, we are an FM business as well. So, excuse me, we do need a 24-hour help desk. We do look after a couple of hundred sites for a very well-known landlord, and you need that 24-hour help desk. That is very much at the competency and the core of a hard services FM business. But at the same time, we can also build you a digital twin. We can also integrate directly into your BMS. We can also digitalize your Legionella testing. We can also understand what is going on from an energy signature point of view for your building. We can help you with the ESG strategy. We can help you deep dive into specific assets, whatever you want to know. But at the same time, we can also do your fixed wire test. We can also do your emergency light test. We can also do the very arguably boring, but really important hard FM side of it from an electrical competency point of view. And for us, that's our key differentiator, being able to not only do, as we call it, the bread and butter side, but also digitalize your business at the same time. As I said before, this is just looking at an asset. So once you know that normal state, then anything outside of that becomes an opportunity for action. You can look at it from a kitchen equipment point of view as well. We do have quite a lot of experience in this area. The reason why I chose this slide was because one thing we need to remember, especially those that are designing these solutions, is when it comes to an operational environment, if you go into that operational environment and expect those operators to do another thing on top of their 1,000,001 things to do, I'm telling you now, you can forget it. It just won't happen, and it shouldn't happen in that way. Because especially when you think about what's going on in hospitality at the moment in regards to staff shortages and how hard these people work, to then go in and say, well, can you just, it's going to be a nigh on difficult, impossible sell to try to get something implemented within that business. And we've all seen horror stories of wasted opportunities. Long before COVID, I think it was in early 2019, January, February time, we did a site survey for a very well-known business, multi-site operation. I won't mention them because of the story I'm going to tell. What we found was during the time of that survey, we surveyed the site at, I think it was at 8:30, 8:45 in the morning, and the site was operational from 11:30 up until late in the evening. But they had big, massive industrial pizza ovens. And at the time of the survey, we walked around and these pizza ovens were on, set around about 220, 230 degrees. Um, and I remember asking at the time, why is that on? And the conversation was, well, it's an operational standard. We want to get it up to temperature. We want to make sure that when people come in, that we can, get the pizza in and then get it cooked. I get all that. I get all that. But if you think about it, it wouldn't be that difficult to put some monitoring equipment on that, so you can then um, talk and look centrally at what's happening within that operation, and then say, well, how many pizzas do we sell at this certain time? When is that equipment going on? Times by the amount of sites that we have. This is how much energy we're using as a result of doing that operational standard. Is it worth looking at that? Arguably, yes. And then the last one would be going into the back of house and seeing the kitchen. They had 8-ring burners that were on, and gas is instantaneous. So they had the 8-ring burners on, and the reason why they were on was to warm up the kitchen. Again, I mean, across hundreds, if not a couple of thousand sites, how many sites are doing that? But how centrally do you know? Because you get a bill, you get an energy bill. And the energy bill is probably going to tell you your peak off peak, but it's not going to itemize that. And where in life do we get anything else that is such a big bill like energy and not have it itemized? Your credit card statement, your phone statement, they're all itemized. And this is what this technology can do. It will just itemize it for you so you can understand where to go. And then you can start to aggregate that up and look at a building point of views. Digital twins are always a funny one. The digital twins are nothing new. They've been around for many years. Airline industries have used them for a long time. So have the military, but they're sort of in vogue at the moment. But I would think twice before you start to digital twin an entire building. One, unless your second name is Bezos, then you might not want to put your hand in your pocket for that. And two, what's it going to tell you? Unless that building is housing a cure for cancer or COVID or something, then why do you need to know every single piece of operation and what's happening in that building? You don't. Where we've used these before is on specific assets. So maybe a generator or maybe a piece of equipment, that could be lab equipment, could be anything. You might want to digital twin that so you can understand what's going on, or even production lines. Because what you can do with digital twins, you can start to change things around, test some environments, test what would happen if we did this or did that, or change that parameter, rather than doing it in the real life operation. It gives you a very good understanding of what that would perform like if you implemented it. And again, there's a lot of science and data behind that. And this is where you can start to look at your estate from a portfolio point of view, not from a digital twin. I'm talking around in terms of digitalizing that building. And that's from an EMS system, that's from Legionella testing, that's from understanding what's going on with specific assets, that's helping your HVAC system perform more efficiently, whatever that could be. Once you start to look at that from a portfolio point of view, you can understand where you can then deep dive to bring a certain area up in terms of energy efficiency, or whatever that might be, whatever the parameters that you're looking at. Or maybe even look at some buildings and go, well, that's okay. But what I want to do with my equipment there is I just want to understand what's going on rather than actually change anything. And when I say by what's going on, it could be I just want to know what the energy signature is. I want to know what the carbon footprint is of that building. Great. But building B might be very old, and you might say, well, I want to know if there's any damp or any mold in there because it's costing me a fortune. I want to know if there's any leaks or whatever that could be. Then you can start to put specific hardware in place to monitor that and pull the data out accordingly. As we know, within operations, everybody's very competitive, which is why they do the jobs that they do, and they're so very good at it. With technology, you can start to do fun things such as league tabling. You obviously need to normalize that data depending on the age of the site and the size of the site and all that good stuff, because you don't want to skew it in any sort of way, because people can get very precious, and quite rightly. But you can start to understand how you can play with this data and make changes and understand how you engage team members. And when we talk about engagement, that's where the dashboards are really important. So having hardware on site is great. Pulling data out, doing very detailed analytics is all absolutely fantastic and very important. But how do you engage the masses? How do you talk to people in a language that people will understand. I mean, before I got into this sort of area, what is a ton of carbon? What's a kilowatt hour? How does that what does that tell me? What information does that give me that I can use? Now, this is just a dashboard we use for um, a very competent engineering business that understands this information. But that information could be anything. It could be how many times the cleaners went into a specific bathroom, how many times the lift has gone up and down, which floor the lift has stopped on, whatever that information is, whatever you want to put a sensor on, you can pull that into lovely dashboards. And what it does is it basically takes your, as I said, the bill that you've got here and gives you a whole raft of information. And you can digitalize your PPM schedule. You could even go down into specific floor levels. You can do air quality, space utilization, you name it. The sky's the limit, really, when it comes to IoT and what it can do for your estate. So that was just a very quick run through of who we are, what we do. As always, we love questions, we love challenges. If there's anything that you want us to specifically focus on, even if you like these lives, we can keep doing them more or not. please don't say no. But it's up to you guys. We want to be able to adapt our content around you. I don't just want to be sound like I'm just droning on and on and on and on and on. If you think we should bring guests in, if you want to hear some more from myself or John or Sharon, just say and we'll do it. But I really appreciate it if you manage to tune in and watch, and I can't thank you enough. Have a great day.